Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brenda Lee's podcast. So, in this episode today, we are going to be talking about another topic. This topic for today is we're leaving the past behind us for good. I hear a lot of people say, I'm going to leave the past behind me, and then they don't. We say a lot of things and don't do it sometimes. That's just something that we all go through as people. It can be hard to leave the past behind you, especially when people always make your past be known. People have tendencies to do that sometimes on purpose just to like trigger you, get you angry, get you upset. But we ourselves, as the ones that experienced our past and went through what we went through in our past, and such as past decisions, past mistakes, whatever that may be, or whatever that is for you, we really need to leave it in the past for good, forever. Do not keep bringing it to every present moment that you have. Do not keep bringing what have happened or what you have dealt with or went through in the past to the present. Please stop doing that. And if you are someone that is doing that, or you know someone that have done that to you, or you just know of people in general that do that, you need to stay away from them. You don't need to be around them. You don't need to have them in your presence, and they don't need to be in your presence. That's just how that is. It is extremely unhealthy to constantly be around people that's constantly just throwing your past at you all the time. Stop it. Don't do it. It's not good. Nobody needs to be going through that. It is just not cool. If we say we're going to leave our past behind us for good, we really have to leave it in the past for good. Meaning, like, do not keep bringing it up. Do not keep talking about it. Don't even tell people about it. You really shouldn't tell nobody about your past, because I feel like the minute you tell people or the minute you put it out there in the open, it keeps going around. What goes around comes around. That's literally how it goes. Once you tell somebody, they run their mouth and they tell someone else. That's how that goes. I don't care how close you are with a person or with people, what kind of relationship it is that you have with a person or with other peers. Anybody will tell you, like, oh, I'm not going to tell your past to no one, or I'm not going to tell nobody about the past or about the past you. And then they go running their mouth rambling and telling other people about your past. It is not their place to do that. It is not okay to do that. It is wrong to do that, actually. You're not supposed to go running off telling people about other people's past, especially if that person don't know that you're telling it or you didn't get permission from them first to tell it. And another thing, stop telling things that's not your place to tell. Stop telling stories that are not for you to tell. It wasn't your experience. It wasn't you that had to go through it. It was what someone else had to go through. So let that person speak for themselves. Let that person tell it for themselves. Let that person tell their own story on their experience and what they had to go through. They don't need for you to run your mouth to a bunch of people and tell a bunch of people. You don't need to be doing that, especially if you wasn't given permission to. It is just not okay to do that. And I think that's very petty, disrespectful, and very ignorant. And it's extremely uncalled for. Because what is the reason to be going around telling somebody your business? For what? You shouldn't tell it and other people shouldn't be telling it. And that's why you have to be very careful about who you tell these things to. All right? So that's a powerful declaration of moving forward, choosing to focus on the present and the future rather than dwelling on past hurts, mistakes, or limitations. Another thing, if you also don't like for people to dwell on your past and constantly bring it up and talk about it, you also should not be talking about it either. I understand it's your past. You feel as though you have every right to speak on it whenever you want to, as much as you want to, but you will never be able to fully recover and move on from it completely if you keep bringing it up and talking about it when it's not necessary to. And in the present moment, as of right now, it's not necessary to be talking about your past. Your focus should be on the present moment, what's happening right now in front of you, what you're currently doing and what you're currently doing in your life right now, not what happened years ago. We shouldn't have our mind so focused on something that we no longer can fix or change anymore because it's over with. Once it's over with, you have to completely move on from it as well by not talking about it anymore and just choosing to just let it be and stay where it's meant to be at. You can't say that you've moved on from something or you're over it or whatever the case may be, or whatever it is you want to call it, but then you still keep sitting around talking about it and dwelling on it and constantly throwing it out there for no apparent reason. It's no reason to be doing that. If you're going to say you're over it, you moved on from it, you need to be able to prove that, show that within your actions by not talking about it anymore and so on. But if you're still sitting there dwelling on it, talking about it, and also doing that along with other peers, that's wrong. Because how can you expect to move on from anything? How is that serving you any purpose on trying to move on from your past or your past self when you keep talking about it? You got to think about that. It's about growth, creating a new path. Yes. And I feel like once you grow from your past self, you do become a new version of you. It's like you're a new person. You're starting on a fresh start and embracing brighter opportunities by learning from history without being trapped by it. You should never feel trapped by it. It's not supposed to make you feel like that. It's supposed to be a learning type of thing. Like something you learn from, you gain from, and you do better. Not where you like make yourself feel like you're stuck in these ways. You're stuck with being who you were in the past. No. Once you moved on from the past, you're no longer that version of yourself anymore. You're working towards being a better person. You're working towards bigger and better things. So whatever you left behind you in the past from who you were then, it stays there. It does not follow you. It stays where it's at because that's where it's meant to be. It involves accepting what happened. And I know that that can be very hard to accept the past for what it was and what it is, but that's something you have to learn to do with everything you go through in life. We have to accept everything for the way it is. We have to accept everything. Even things we may not like, things we may not understand, but you have to learn to accept it for what it is. And just say, I'm going to leave it where it's meant to be, and I'm going to keep it there, and I'm going to go on with my life. Releasing old emotions, forgiving yourself and others, and actively making new positive choices to build the life you want now. Understanding that the past is a place of reafference, not a resistance. Okay? All right. So, one of the biggest lessons I feel like I had to learn for a long time was to accept who I was in the past, and not just who I was in the past, but to accept that version and that part of me, and also accept the choices and the decisions I was making at that time. And I will be the first to admit and to say, despite of what other people think or what other people may say, because I really don't care about that. I'm speaking on me for myself. But what I will say is that the decisions and the choices and everything I was making then was not the best. I wish it could have been better at times. I wish I could have made better choices and better decisions when it came to certain situations, and I didn't. Um, for the longest time, I I didn't like myself for it because I knew that I could be better. I could be doing better. The choices I was making and the decisions I was making could have been better than it was when it came to certain situations. So for the longest time, I would dwell on it a lot, and I would constantly keep like beating myself up because I know I didn't make the right decision or the right choice. And I would just constantly be having a lot of stuff going on in my head, like, well, how would this have turned out or happened if I would have did this or that differently? It would be that kind of thing going on in my head constantly all the time. Like I would feel like I was constantly making stupid decisions and I was just never going to learn from it. I was never going to grow from it. I was never going to be a better person. I started having a lot of doubts constantly, like back to back, regarding myself, my choices, the decisions that was happening, all of that. And it just started to become very negative, like I started building a lot of negative thoughts and emotions from that and going through that. And I said to myself, like, you know what? You just have to come to terms with who you was then and what you were doing at that time. And you have to realize that that was then, that's not now. People may, people from the outside looking in may look at it like, you know, it's still the same thing. Or they may look at it like, you know what, she's still that same person. She's still doing those same things. But they don't really know that. They don't know what I'm doing. They don't know if I'm doing something differently or doing something the same. They don't know what's going on. A lot of times people feed off of what they hear from other people, or they just form their own opinion or their own thoughts. But a lot of the time you really can't assume. You just have to go based off of people's actions and what you see that people are doing. Um, but sometimes it's a lot more to it than that. And it's a lot more to it than we think it is. And it's a lot more to it than what we hear or what we see. You really have to give people the chance and give people the time in the day to really fully focus on themselves and fix whatever it is that they need to fix and change. You can't be so quick and so fast to judge before actually seeing the results of what the person have to show on what it was that they did change or did do differently, because sometimes it can be something that they did change or did do differently and you just don't see it. Sometimes you can't see what's not in front of you, or sometimes you really can't be so fast to judge these things if you haven't witnessed it yet. Like, if nobody have witnessed me doing something differently or doing something better than what I've done before, then you can't really have an opinion on anything when you have not saw anything, you know? And one thing I hate for people to do is to jump to assumptions without knowing all the facts to everything that's going on. That's one of my biggest issues and problems with people, is that you need to know what's going on, or at least have all the facts down pat before you fix your mouth to make any opinions or to say anything about anybody. Because you don't know everything. You don't know everything that's going on all the time. And that's just the truth. And then, so let's talk more about what it means to leave the past behind. So, acknowledging and processing, so facing past pain or mistakes instead of avoiding them. Allowing yourself to feel the emotions to resolve them. Allow yourself to go through whatever the emotions and the feelings are that you need to go through in order to get through your past and to accept it and move on from it. Whatever emotions or feelings you have felt from your past, or whatever the past have caused you to feel, allow yourself to go through those emotions, or to get through it in whatever way you have to or that you need to, in order to push it past you so you can move on from it. And then learning from it and not repeating it. That's the whole point of, growing from our past, learning from it, is to do better. You're supposed to do better from it, be a better person, all of that. Using past experiences as lessons to guide your future choices, not as defining limitations. So it's really not supposed to define you, and really nobody's past define anybody unless you allow it to define you. And we really supposed to use what we have done in our past, or what the past put us through, or whatever the case is, as a lesson to shape us and build us into doing better and doing differently than back then. And then forgiveness. I feel like that's a big problem that a lot of people have, is learning to forgive the past for what it was. Releasing grudges against others and yourself to free up emotional energy. One of the things I will say right now is that you do not want to be the one to sit there holding grudges against somebody because of something that they did to you. I understand certain things certain people have been through or went through was probably really hurtful and all, and I completely understand that. And you do have the right to feel the way you want to feel and to go through whatever emotions or feelings that you need to go through to get through it. But at the same time, holding grudges against these individuals, holding grudges against these individuals or these people because of it is not going to help you. It's really not, because the first thing somebody will say is that you need to let it go. You need to move on. You need to forgive or accept this person for what they've done. And that's what God also says to do as well. We supposed to love our neighbors and stuff like that. And he even say that we supposed to forgive, the ones who do us wrong. So even if somebody do something to you that's wrong or that's not right and that doesn't make you feel good, we're told to still forgive these people despite of what they did, because eventually they're going to learn from what they've done anyway. So your best bet is to have forgiveness and to forgive and keep it moving. And then focusing on the present, recognizing that your power lies in the now, where you can input new habits and create a different future. And then shifting identity, understanding you are not defined by your past. Like I said, you're not defined by it unless you're allowing it to define you. Past failures, but not your potential to become someone new. Yes. All right. So for those of us who may not know any ways or any steps on how to start doing it or how to go about it, I'm here to tell you all of that. Okay? So feel free to take notes or jot some stuff down if you feel like this is going to be worth using for yourself, because I know somebody's probably going to find some reason to use something for whatever. Using affirmations is a really good one. I use affirmations every single day. I even use them and share them with others. So yeah, affirmations is a great tool to use as well. Mantras is another one. Like, I'm no longer who I used to be, which is also a good way to remind yourself that you are not your past anymore. You are a new version of you and you are a better you. And then learning from the past, as I cannot change it. You cannot change it. You cannot go back and do anything differently about the situation. But if you could, or if you had the chance or the opportunity to, I'm pretty sure a lot of us would do a lot of things differently if we had that choice to do it. But because that's not possible and we can't do that, you have to be the one to just, build yourself into being a better person than you were then. That's really all there is to it that you really can do. If you can't do anything to actually change the situation itself because it's already, long gone, you have to start with building yourself to being a better version of you. And then everything else will fall into place as well. And then you have to make new choices, but better choices. Maybe you got to make different types of choices. In each moment, choose actions that align with the future you want, not the old patterns that you were doing. One thing you don't want to do is to keep continuing to repeat the same old patterns, because then you're going to fall back into the trap of repeating the same old mistakes. And then it's going to feel like you're falling back into the trap of your past self by doing the same things that you used to do. And that's something that you're trying to overcome. That's something that you're trying to grow from. So don't go back to the old ways. Try to create new ways of you. Try to create new habits, but healthy ones, and try to create better choices. And I feel like that's always hard, because whoever really do make good choices all the time? Nobody. But that's something that we have to be willing to try to do more often, regardless of how hard it may be. And then seek support. So that could be anything that you feel as though you could utilize for support. Therapy is always one of them, for sure. If feelings are overwhelming, to build emotional strength, and sometimes you just feel better by having somebody to talk to and express your feelings to. Sometimes you just want all ears. You just want someone to listen to what you have to say. I know that that's what I wanted the most, more than anything, out of therapy when I was still going at the time, was to have somebody to listen to me and listen in on how I feel and what I want to say about my feelings. And I got the opportunity and the chance to do that as much as possible, which helped me to open up a lot more. So therapy really did me justice. Like, it really did exactly what it needs to do for me, to help me to be more of an open book and to express my feelings more. And then bring the good. Don't just guard positive memories or lessons. Take the wisdom with you. That's very true. That's something that we all definitely can do. There's good and bad things you can take from everything, just like everything have pros and cons. Everything don't always have to be a bad thing necessarily, but you should really look at a lot of things in life that you go through as a learning lesson is something to really learn from, not something to always like bash yourself down for or to feel bad about, because there's really nothing to feel bad about. Um, Having a past and going through your past as a person is something that we all go through as people. Unfortunately, it's the truth, but we all have a past. Everybody has something that they went through in their past that was either hurtful or caused them to have a lot of trauma or go through a lot of trauma. It caused an effect on all of us in some shape, way, or form on what we have been through in our past. Everybody went through something. You don't have to always talk about it. You don't have to always brag about it. You don't have to always constantly bring it up or bring it into the present moment, because the whole point of the past being the past is to stay where it is and for you to keep moving. Okay? You'll feel a lot better if you learn to leave it where it is instead of constantly dragging it along with you everywhere you go in life, because that's not going to serve you any purpose. It's just going to cause you to remain being stuck living in the past, which is going to make it harder for you to move on from it. So don't do that. Do not be that kind of person to keep dragging it along with you through everything you do in life, through every accomplishment you make or every achievement you make. No, because the past have nothing to do with what you're doing right now. So when I really do say leave it where it is, leave it where it is. We're in 2025 now. We're going to be going into 2026 very soon before you know it. Very shortly, by a blink of an eye, because everything goes so fast, we'll be in a new year. Do not go into a new year still talking about your past. Absolutely not. I've done that enough, and I got so annoyed by it to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not talking about it no more, because it wasn't serving me any purpose. It wasn't doing me any good. It wasn't making nothing differently for me or none of that. I was not getting nothing good out of that by constantly reminding myself about it and constantly talking about it. I said to myself, like, you know what? I'm going to leave it where it is and I'm going to leave it alone. It's gone. It's old. It means nothing no more. It can't change or fix nothing in my life right now. It can't make anything be no differently or better. I'm going to just leave it where it is, because the past is not going to define me, and it's not going to affect or define what I have going on or how I'm living or none of that. Because when you really do sit back and allow so much of the past and what was going on and what was happening to get all in your head, it will cause you to think and feel all types of things. And it will leave you in some unhealthy headspaces. And I do not want that for nobody. I don't even want that for myself. If I don't want that for myself, I definitely don't want that for you guys. You have to care enough and care so much about yourself, your growth, your achievements, all of those good things to be able to say, like, you know what, the past was then, that's not now. So I'm not going to choose to allow it to affect anything I'm trying to do in my present life. The present life and what's happening and going on right now is totally different from the past. Let's not sit here and act like they're the same. They're not. They're totally different from each other. The present you and the past you, totally different from each other. Two different versions of you. People think people don't change, people don't grow, people don't change their ways, but that's not true. That's something that happens over time. But just wait until 2026 hit and you go into the new year popping out as a whole brand new person. People are probably not even going to recognize or know who you are anymore. They're going to look at you and be like, oh my God, you really did change. Like, you really are not the way you used to be. Anybody can change. There's many different ways people can change. That looks and is different for everybody. Change, growth, and all of that is different for everybody. Everybody don't grow and change the same way. It's different for every single person. But just because somebody is not growing or changing in the ways you may think or feel like they should does not mean that they're not trying to grow. So it have to come to a point where you have to stop belittling people. Stop putting people down. Stop putting people down or finding reasons to put people down when they are trying to make an effort to change or to do something differently with their life or with themselves. I give credit to people who actually try and put in the work to try, because you have some people that don't try at all, or that's not willing to try, or they're so fast to tell others what others need to do for themselves, but they're not applying it to them, or they're not applying it to themselves or their own life. You can't do that. If you're going to look for someone else to change or to change something about themselves, you need to change something about yourself as well. We all can change something about ourselves. Let's not make just one person or two people feel a certain type of way about changing something about themselves, and we sit back and act like we can't change nothing or we don't have to change anything. You're best to believe you have something to change too. So let's stop putting down other people for trying to build themselves into being better versions and better people, because they're doing it for a good purpose and for a good reason. And it's going to do them very well later down the line throughout other things they decide or choose to do with their life or whatever they decide to do. So I wish people well when it comes to that, because growth and changing and all of that is not easy. That is something that happens over time, and it can take some time for that to happen for people. If you're not trying to change something within yourself, you have no right to judge anybody else that is. And with that being said, leave the past and the old you in 2025. Bring out a new person and a new part of you and a new you in 2026. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I said my piece. I'm out of here. Bye bye.